on negotiating and or renegotiating the best deal with your CRM vendor. And what I'd like to look at first before we kind of talk money and dollars and cents is some of the existing implementation options that are available for your organizations as you choose to work with CRM vendors, because there will be different ways of negotiating and pricing based on what type of implementation option you are using. So just a quick kind of introduction before we get into dollars and cents regarding the negotiations. So there's basically three options, and it's two with one in the middle. But I'll go through the two bookends. One is on-premise and one is on-demand, and then I'll talk about the one in the middle that's increasingly called hosted. But the on-premise is the kind of the old way and still very much the majority way of putting in CRM software, although that's even changing. I mean, we'll see in a minute why. But on-premise is where you take the software, you actually buy it, so you license the software as it says. You then deploy it on your own machines, meaning a server in your own company typically, and you maintain it within your IT shop or whatever you use for an IT organization. And typically you purchase a license for each user, so you have what's called named users. Sometimes you'll have concurrent users where there's a certain number of people can come in. It doesn't make a difference who they are, but there's 10 or 20 users. And then there's another ability to negotiate an enterprise license where anybody that is on a sheet of paper as a named user can come in either all at once or individually. It depends on how you set up the deal, the license. And then typically on the on-premise side, the vendor will charge anywhere between 15 and 25% for maintenance. It's to narrow that down, it's typically 18 to 22, and to take an average, it's typically 20, although I like to negotiate lower. That on-premise option does give you the most flexibility for connecting the CRM system to other systems like your ERP or web solutions or any of your back office systems that are actually, very important feeds into the CRM system or receivers of information from the CRM system. So by having basically the software on a box in your shop, you control most easily, most flexibly, what to connect to and how to make those connections. But that also, implies that there's going to be a resource commitment that your organization needs to make in terms of staffing the CRM server or IT department in such a way that you could make sure that the software is running accurately, is kept up to date, is backed up, the user, new users are brought on, and the data is kept clean, and the connections work, et cetera, et cetera. So that's the on-premise option. The kind of summarize that is typically a higher cost of entry than the other option I'm going to talk about, on-demand or hosted, in the sense that you have to buy the stuff up front, but it's definitely the lower long-term cost, because once you've sunk the initial cost in the in the software and related hardware or services, you then amortize that over typically a 5-year period during the life of a CRM kind of a deployment, which runs maybe 5 years. So higher entry at the beginning, but there's a crossover point. And it depends on number of users and prices paid and everything, but there's a crossover point where it then becomes actually advantageous to go with the on-premise option, because over the long term it's the lowest cost option, but at the beginning it's a higher